Welcome to the Next Level's Chaos to Clarity podcast. Chaos ends here. Clarity begins now. Every week, real stories, bold strategies, and actionable insights help you level up fast. Let's dive in.
All right. Well, welcome back to Chaos to Clarity podcast, the podcast where we help contractors simplify questions, maximize their CRM investment, and build businesses that scale without the chaos. I'm Ben Kirk, your COO at Next Level.
And I'm Becca, your VP of Admin Services. And today we're talking about something that almost every contractor struggles with, whether they realize it or not.
Well, today we are kind of diving into the hidden cost of dirty pipelines. Now, okay, audience, before you tune us out, because pipeline management sounds boring, let me tell you this. A dirty pipeline can cost you more than a bad lead source, more than missed appointments, more than a marketing campaign that flops, because it affects everything.
It really does. Sales forecasting, customer communication, production planning, reporting, ultimately profitability at the end of the day.
Yeah, and so today we're going to talk to you about what is a dirty pipeline. And so this is some things that we're going to talk about that most contractors don't know that they really have. So let's start with the basics. When we say dirty pipeline, Becca, what are we actually talking about?
Well, I would think a dirty pipeline is a CRM, let's say, full of opportunities that aren't being managed correctly. So things like old estimates, duplicate contacts, stalled jobs, missing tasks, incorrect stages, leads basically that nobody owns.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't tell you how many times that we have worked with customers. We are partners with Job Nimbus. We've worked with Builder Prime customers, Proline, which is a new partner, and Zuper, which is a new partner. So we've worked with really a lot of Job Nimbus and Builder Prime clients. And one of the things that we really found is there's sometimes a lot of opportunities that are sitting in people's pipelines for over 6 months. We can pull a report and we can see like where leads have been sitting, and sometimes it's like 1,000+ days. Mm-hmm. And the owner says, oh, when you talk to them about it, they're like, oh, well, we've been busy, we've just been slammed, we just don't know what to do. And that's what the excuse is. We've been really busy.
Which is exactly why it happens. Honestly, I've heard everything from because we're so busy, we can't go follow up to make sure stuff's getting done, make sure that all the processes were followed. And when business gets busy, CRM discipline, it is always typically the first thing that disappears. You lose track of things, you stop prioritizing process, and you're just go, go, go. But then in that, you end up culminating with a bunch of clients who get clogged up in the system that don't turn into revenue.
Mm-hmm. Very, very true. So what's the oldest opportunity you've ever found sitting in a pipeline?
Oh my goodness. So I was just in an account the other day and I had one that was over 1,000 days old, like 1,032, I think it was. There were several of them and they were just sitting there in the main lead pipeline. Can you believe lead status? That's where they were sitting.
I know. So my wife tells me don't do math in public, but 1,300 days, how many years is that?
It was 1,032. So if it's 365 days, that's at least almost 4 years. Math correctly. It's about 4 years, which is a long time to just sit there. And if that's sitting there, how long is everything else?
Well, yeah, but all of that stuff culminated, or if that's the right word, accumulated, or what am I trying to say? Culminated. That's the right word. All of that stuff culminated in reports is going to really just jack up their reporting. And so when it gets into the next part of what we're going to be talking about, it's always old data creates reporting problems, and bad data creates bad decisions. And so one of the biggest hidden costs is inaccurate reporting, and we've seen it in lots of CRMs. I don't think there's any perfect CRM out there. There's a lot of great CRMs, but if we had a perfect one, I think we'd be in heaven. But one of the biggest hidden costs is inaccurate reporting. Most owners look at dashboards every day, but what if that dashboard is wrong in what they're looking at?
Oh, that's what happens when opportunities aren't updated. The data accuracy, we've talked a lot about it. I've spent so much time in data analytics. I've been a data analyst for years, and I'm very obsessed with accuracy and reports. So when you're not updating your opportunities, you end up creating these gaps in reality, ultimately. So one of my favorite stories is I did a time study once to try to help bring clarity into why it was taking so long to do a client's implementation, for example. Why did it take so long for that to get done? And the answer was, well, it's always taken that much time. And I'm like, why? And we're like, it's a hard process. It takes a long time. So I'm like, well, let's study it. Let's time ourselves and see why. And what we found was a ton of problems. People were finding their own ways to do their processes, backdoor methods, doing things in harder ways. And their perception on how long they thought time took was so off. They're like, it takes me about 15 minutes to do that. When you timed them, it was more like 45. So their perception on it was way off. And so what you end up finding out is that when your opportunities aren't being updated, when you're not paying attention to process and doing things consistently in standardized way, you could think that you have $2 million of open work in your system and 200 active opportunities, but really half of them should have been closed a long time ago.
Well, and then from that data, right, you start making decisions based on that bad information. So let's say you maybe go out and you start hiring a bunch of people, or you maybe start spending a bunch of money on marketing, or you buy some equipment, all because your CRM told you revenue was coming that really never existed.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, I think that comes back to also where there's forecast accuracy reporting, which I'm a big fan of. My husband introduced me to that. He's in sales and operations. And one thing that I had found was if I want to anticipate capacity and what we're going to need to produce, so I know how many people I need, how many, my team's total timeline, like our lead timeline to actually do the work, I needed more information and data that would tell me what is actually coming in. And when I don't actually do the deep dive into what are those key factors, the key indicators that will tell me the client is actually going to convert, do I actually really have a measurement for what status is the status where we start measuring this is actually a qualified lead that could really be turned into revenue? I'm going to have this constant state of assumption I'll be in.
Well, and I've got a couple of questions for you. What's the most common reporting issue you've seen? And if you don't mind, just kind of discuss inflated pipeline values and what that false forecasting does.
Absolutely. So the most common reporting issue I see is one in systems, a lack of knowledge about where do I even start? What do I need to report on? How do I know what's meaningful data? So if you can answer the question of what is the problem we're trying to hone in on? Like, where's my magnifying glass? I'm going to comb through this stack of hay to try to find the needle that would solve things in my business, right? And make me just take off like rocket fuel. People will start with this overwhelming mountain of data that they don't even know where to start scratching the surface. So I think that reporting issues can begin when you don't have clarity on what you're trying to see in the data. So if you have a meaningful conversation that will say, I want to know how long a lead, like the date the lead comes in, the date we have our first engagement, how many touches did we have, like how often were we communicating with them before they actually converted or were lost. You can start to really identify client behaviors, internal behaviors, process opportunities. There's so much, but it starts with asking the question of what are you trying to learn? What do you need to see? What do I not have visibility in? As far as like inflated pipeline values and like false forecasting, that when you've got a bunch of leads coming in, people will see that as, look at all that money. I've got $50,000 worth of clients sitting in the lead status. And that's great. But really what you have is a bunch of people, like imagine we all have been in some sort of contractor industry, right? Door knocking. When I go knock on a house, that doesn't mean that house has a dollar value associated with it yet. It's just a house. I'm knocking on it to see if I can talk to them. Some of them have soliciting signs, some of them don't. But that doesn't mean that entire street actually is revenue for me right now. It's not until I get someone to talk to me that the conversation begins where they could be someone we do business with. And so when you start your sales forecasting or your revenue forecasting to say, what's the money we could potentially make? And you don't start from the point of this is actually where conversion can begin, you're going to have this massively inflated pipeline of phantom customers that aren't actually really maybe even your ideal client profile. And that's a whole other level of the reporting is when you get into analytics and you drill into what are my client behaviors, you can identify your ideal client profile so you can focus on the right customers faster and identify the customers that are not ideally going to be the ones that convert, and it's not mutual for you or them.
That's good stuff. So when we're talking about the customer and we're talking about follow-up, I want to talk about follow-up failures to kind of lead us into our next little segment. I'm a big proponent on follow up, and I'm still working in my life in our company to try to figure out that sweet spot. Like I used to do door knocking, and I hated it in roofing. But I mean, I built business by it, but then all of a sudden referrals and calls started coming. So that was great. But I've seen success with people doing door knocking, and I've seen success with people doing follow up. And they're sitting in their home and they're selling roofs off the internet. They're not even going to the customer's house, which is crazy. I know a company in Michigan right now that's incredible that just does remote sales, and that's how they do. But we've talked about this in one of our last episodes about follow up. My favorite statistic is most companies don't have a lead problem; they have a follow up problem.
Oh, absolutely. A homeowner could get busy. Life happens. I know I've had several clients who they were very, very adamant that they wanted to move forward, but then bam, hail season suddenly strikes early. I don't know about you guys, but this season's weather has been weird this year. Last couple of years, it's been evolving and changing over time as it does. So you might have thought this was the right time, and then suddenly it wasn't, and we have to delay things. The project itself could get delayed because weather, which we can't control. So that doesn't mean that the customer's gone forever. It just means that they've gotten kind of lost in the chaos.
Yeah, and I think the crazy part is most contractors, they just stop following up after some one or two times, some three times. I think we kind of came to a realization back in doing what we do, just reaching out to customers that need help, contractors that need help. I think we settled on maybe 5 or 6 times, and that was a rotation of like emails, text, and phone call. Because I'm the type of guy, like, if you start hounding me as like sales, and I'm not ready to move forward, and you've hit me up about the 10th text or email or something like that, I'm probably blocking you. So like, I don't know that we have all the answers for you, but we have quite a few things that we could help customers like you that are listening with on follow up and what that sweet spot is. But I think it maybe it varies by location. I don't know. But the crazy part is the customer is still trying to decide, but maybe they don't want to decide right then,
Oh, absolutely. I know that I ran into this exact scenario last week. It wasn't roofing related, but I had someone coming to my door, pest control season. I don't know about you, but I get people who are like really, really interested in trying to sell and advocate for pest control, and I'm all for it. But whenever you have an indication that says no, it's a good signal to say, cool, maybe we should just leave this person alone. So finding your own sweet spot of how do I make sure I appeal to my customers and also leave a good impression, you could win them later still.
So what do you think, or why do you think some sales reps stop following up too early?
I think a lot of the times, from at least what I've heard, and I've even experienced myself, is that it's exhausting. Sales can be very exhausting to have to keep and circle back to customers over and over again and hope that they could turn into an actual converted deal. Most of the time when we're in sales, we're to put bread on the table. It's about commissions all of the times. So you really want to focus on those customers who you think are the most likely to convert. And so if a customer's not responding really quickly, people want to just hurry up and move on to the next one so they can make their quotas. It can also be the pressure and expectations internally for your own processes that you set as a company. So if you're pushing and pushing and pushing for a rapid closure to push a new lead out of your pipeline, let's say within a week, you could also be the reason. It's not the sales rep, it's the process you established by trying to hurry up and force customers out of your pipeline instead of being more intentional to say, actually, there's a percentage of customers who take just a little bit longer to convert.
So true. So true.
Yeah. I would ask you though, like if you could, how would you automate and help without feeling robotic in these scenarios?
Well, I mean, when it comes to follow up, like we work with a lot of clients that, days in status or particular status in their workflow process can fire off automations, depending on if it sits there for a certain amount of time or if the action of changing one status to the next. We use automation a lot because we do text messages, we do email, and then there's, all of a sudden here's AI that pops on the scene that we have partners with that do a lot of great stuff through AI. And I'm still learning some of that, but with text messages and with emails, we have so many clients who's like, oh yeah, just put it in the system and just get it done for me. And I'm just like, Yeah, but like I want to hear your heart. Like I want the verbiage that goes from your CRM to the customer. I want that to be organic. I want that to be holistic to who you are and how would you say it? And there's some people that'll just chat GPT it and say, hey, put this in. But then there's some people that really take the opportunity on our sheet that we send them to really, type out what they want to say, and then we get that implemented for them. But I think it's important that it's more of a warm feeling, and making it sound less robotic by doing holistic. Just I want you to hear what I sound like from my company. And then, as far as AI goes, AI is coming on the scene. I'm the kind of guy, I like technology, but doggone it, I just want to talk to a real person sometimes.
Mhm.
But I called XM Radio the other day because I had to change out my debit card number, and I could not talk to a human. Like, could not talk to a human. And it was like, hi, this is Crystal, your AI representative for XM Radio. And we literally had a conversation back and forth. And she was able to do what I needed to do, but it was AI. It wasn't a human. So I'm thinking, wow, is this really where our industry is
Mhm.
going? Because they're teaching these AI prompts, and they're teaching the AI how to respond, or how to take rejection, or how to accept, someone wanting to move forward or whatever. So it's really cool, and we have ways that we can help do some things with you guys. And if you need help with that, we certainly have partners that can be implemented into your CRM and help you do a lot of follow up as well. Because
Oh,
some people will use outside parties connected to their CRM to
mhm.
follow up with like Hatch and Weave and other softwares.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a big, I dive down the AI, rabbit hole, and have learned a lot of the campaigning and programming myself. And I think that there is a secret sauce you can do, which is where we make a lot of really good professional recommendations of how do I blend my AI
Hmm.
to my human experience. And that's where a lot of those cadences come in, where you're thinking about what am I doing in this communication and how is it actually affecting and impacting our customers? And you can blend both while still retaining a really good customer experience. But let me
Hmm.
explain what happens to the customer as you're starting to implement all of these things, whether it's missing it or adding it in. So let's say what the customer's experience is before you implement these campaigns. A lot of times a customer just sees that you are not that interested in them. And you might not think that. You're like, oh, I gave them a call. I called them 3 times. I know from my perspective, I've been trying to shop for a CPA. And every time I've done that, when I've had to book multiple appointments and reach out to people, you can see the ones who are not really that invested and motivated to help you. And when you see that, your perception gets set, and it's really hard to change that perception once you get it. You can't redo a first impression. You can just try to rebuild the trust. And I think that that's what you run into a lot of times with your customers. When you don't have consistency, when you don't have authenticity, they get really put off really fast. And if I can see that your prompt that you put to ChatGPT is in your template you sent out or your email, I'm going to immediately be like, you're not even trying here. Like, I'm talking to a robot. I'm not even dealing with a real person. What's the next
Right.
step going to even be like? I know I'll see crews, but I won't see crews until you're doing the thing on my roof. And do they even talk to me at that point? And
Hmm.
so I think that when you look at the customer's experience beforehand, they're lost. They feel like there's not a lot of investment, that you're not willing to help them, because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You are helping them with something, and they want you to care as much as they do about what this project is. The
Yeah.
Whenever you do end up with this kind of messy pipeline, the customer doesn't understand that is a problem you have. They think this is just how you operate. They can feel the effects of things, but it translates more to bad business than it does to bad process or bad system implementation. So I think
Hmm.
that's kind of where when I'm evaluating and assessing it, I would say I can blend my AI in here and bring in these great automations that are for low value tasks that are reminders and nudges, but I still need a part of my automation that would assign a task or tell some person on my team to still go and check in with the customer, send a personal text, send a personal email, pick up the phone and call them. And that can still provide that warm experience you're describing.
That's awesome, Becca. You had me laughing there for a minute because you said CPA and you're looking for a good CPA, and we had a good CPA for a couple of years, and when our closest friend referred us to him, and we went down to his office, and it was like I was walking into the set of Better Call Saul. And you've seen that. And I'm sitting
Love that
there,
show.
and the guy's like behind his desk, and he was like the epitome of it, of just, his brain was everywhere. So there was stuff everywhere. He knew his stuff. He was brilliant. But what got me is when I found out that he only had one leg, and he was eating a bag of Chex Mix out of his fake leg. Like,
That is everything.
he had the bag where he'd put his little nub, and he was just sitting there like it was his bowl, and he was eating Chex Mix. I'm sorry, you had me laughing. I'm like, bad CPA. But anyway, let's talk about the leak and revenue hiding in plain sight. And I want to put some numbers behind this, because those of you that are listening, you may be feeling this pain point somewhat today. But let's say a contractor has 150 unsold estimates sitting in estimate sent. And maybe the average project size is $12,000, we'll say, maybe a little more depending on what trade you're doing. And if we can recover just 5% of that, that's more than $90,000.
Oh, and that's before spending another dollar on lead gen.
That's free money, basically, right? Everyone wants more leads, right? But nobody asks whether they're maximizing the leads that they actually already paid for or already have.
Well, that's exactly. I honestly, I would just have to ask you though, like, what's the biggest revenue recovery that you'd seen from a CRM cleanup? Knowing that all this money's on the table, what was the biggest like pullback that you were able to witness?
One of the things that we've done in one of the CRMs is, when we put the job in paid and closed, we've turned on features of being able to see on the card how much they owe, and if it was paid or whatever. And I can't remember how many thousands of dollars we saved one client, but we went and looked at this. It was kind of a fail safe for them after we set it up. And we went and looked at the paid and closed column to see the jobs that were all in it. And there was a lot of money left. And some of it was stuff that hadn't been recorded, but some of it was stuff that they hadn't received payment yet. They just inadvertently closed it out and it just got missed. So I can't put a number on the biggest, but I know that we've helped some customers gain some money to go back and actually. Some of it may have been so old that they just had to write it off at some point, maybe.
Yeah.
Because if it sat there for 1,000 days, like you said, the other one. But that's kind of where we're at. We try to build in fail safes with people in their CRMs. That way, when they do close out jobs, either through reporting or whatever, that they're able to capture. Okay, I did put this in paid and closed, and it does in fact show that it's paid and closed. That way, there's no looming pending payments out there to be made.
Oh, 100%. What I like is when I see what people do to kind of really facilitate the opposite end of the spectrum here, which is what a healthy pipeline actually looks like. So we've talked a lot about a dirty pipeline and what could be going wrong. What do you think a clean pipeline actually looks like?
Oh my gosh, I love this, because my whole thing, even when I was working back years ago at Job Nimbus and then now working in all types of CRMs, my thing is clean it up, make it nice. I say lean is mean, but I like the fact of just being able to know, it's holistic to my workflow for my company, right? I'm eliminating redundancy in the workflow. A lot of people get confused with statuses and tasks. So they want to put like a status and they want to create a task that says, call this person. Well, if you want them to call the person while it's in that other status, why don't you just build an automation to notify that person? So I like to clean it all up, reduce redundancy, but showing where it is, what stage it's in, who owns the job, who's responsible for the next action. And what a lot of times we do is we build in to where it's departments. So, sales has a board, production has a board, billing has a board, and someone owns the board and oversees the board, and then someone may own a status within the board. But nonetheless, who's responsible for the next action? And then what's next? Is there a scheduled task, a call, an email, a text, or an appointment that's there for that particular customer to be reached out to, maybe by the assigned sales rep? And, what's next? So where it is, where is it, who owns it, and what's next?
And if you can't answer those questions quickly, that's where I would start.
Yeah, for sure. What's the first thing that you look for? And this is something that we're offering this summer as a summer blitz. Be sure to check out social media or different things, or just reach out to us. But we're doing some CRM audits for people during the summer to try to help them continue to get their dirty pipelines cleaned up. But what's the first thing you look for in a CRM audit, Becca?
Well, the obvious ones that the business owner would care most about would be stagnant opportunities or missing actions. So I'll try to see, do we have any automations that are configured today that are helping trigger these reminders and these notifications for people to stay on top of the opportunities and keep them moving forward? Have we automated any status moving based off of time passing? So for example, one of my favorite automations that I set up, I know that sounds so nerdy and dumb to say my favorite automation, but my favorite automations, I love doing nurture campaigns, mostly because of how big of a problem they solve and it's low hanging fruit. If you use that language, it's an easy win to configure automated status changes during nurture campaigns, time-based automations that'll say if a client's been sitting in a status for X period of time, let's say 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 rule, that means that I'm going to try to reach out on day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7, day 10. And that's an aggressive campaign, but a lot of times clients need the nudge to see that they're important and that you really value and try to work with them. But also, I don't know about you, but in busy season, there are so many deals I have to keep track of. I would rather a system remind me then we have to try to keep track of what was the last thing we said, what's the last thing we did. So I'll check for that. I'll check for activity and notes and see where that comes in. But I guess it comes down to habits too. So like what's one CRM habit every contractor I would or should actually implement like today?
I think that every opportunity that they should implement should have a next step assigned to it before ending the day. And what I mean by that is I'm currently working with a client, and incredible company, incredible client. And the way that their system was initially built out, things change over time. Things evolve over time. So what workflow worked for you when you first started may not work for you now. So that's where we come in. We help consult you. We help rebuild it and train you and all that jazz. But working with this client, they had let's say I create an estimate and it's put in estimate sent. So it's sitting there, but in estimate sent, the next step that was a 2-day follow-up. The next step was a 3-day follow-up. The next step was a 4-day follow-up. The next step was a in-house call. The next step was manager needs to look at it or whatever. So it was basically notifications or tasks. And yeah, it was visible so people could see it, but in essence, they could have used the create estimate status and built timed automations based on how long it sat there. So if it's estimate sent, then they want to follow up 2 days later, then let's build up an email or a text or a task for that salesperson to follow up and build it inside of that status of estimate sent. And then after time has passed, if it's not looked at, maybe we move it to manager needs to look at this or whatever. So it's kind of like streamlining and letting the system do what the system can do. Not every system can do every automation that you can think of, but we can get it pretty close. But I think that's one thing is just try to eliminate redundancy, but try to have accountability in every status that you have, and literally stop looking for that silver bullet and try to iterate over time where your processes are and who's responsible.
100% agree. That's, I think, the biggest thing that I can hear when I talk to administrators, owners, ops people. People fixate on a silver bullet, and I try really hard to deter people away from that because it's not a one and done situation. Your business should never be one and done. You should be evolving and changing over time to adjust to customer behaviors, market behaviors, industry changes. So if you are in the mindset right now, if I just fix this one thing, everything will solve it, I would get out of that mindset really quick to say, once I knock that pillar down, what's the next one?
Yep. And next level, here's our challenge for you as we kind of start wrapping this up. We're here to help you. We have experience in the roofing and construction, home exterior industry. We have great knowledge in analytics, statistics, all that kind of great stuff. But we're here to help you. And I want to challenge you today, if you're listening to this podcast, open your CRM and pull these 3 reports or pull these reports. Maybe the opportunities that you've not touched for 30 days, estimates that you haven't followed up on. Maybe the job is missing an owner or a sales rep, or it's not assigned to the right person. Maybe you have duplicate contacts, or there's opportunities, maybe that's older than 30 days, maybe they're 90 days plus. Whatever the case is, look at those and pull those and see what you come up with.
And honestly, don't just look at them. I would add, you need to take action. Any bit of data is valuable, but it's not valuable if you don't correlate it and tie it to some sort of action. Every one of these records represents, at the end of the day, revenue, risk, or honestly, confusion.
For sure. Yep.
Well, the goal isn't to have a perfect CRM at the end of the day. And I know everybody asks for that. This is the right solution for me. It might be today, but stop looking for perfection. The goal should be visibility. I want to increase visibility.
Yep. Because visibility creates accountability. And that's what we've talked about, building in tasks to, make people check the tasks to know that you've done it. If you don't do it, maybe you did it and you didn't check it. Well, that's a coaching moment. I need you to check the task that you did it, right? So it creates accountability. Accountability creates consistency, and consistency creates growth.
And at the end of the day, the contractor isn't the one, like when they win, it's not because of them always having the most leads. At the end of the day, usually they're the ones that manage opportunities the best. We're talking consistency, cadence, and the way that they actually communicate all around.
Exactly. Well, I want to say this has been a great episode. I want to thank you all for being a part of the Chaos to Clarity podcast. And if you're wondering whether your CRM pipeline is helping you grow or quietly holding you back, reach out to us. We'd be glad to sit down and have a free consultation with you and just kind of walk through how we can help and how we can get you to the next level and clean up all the chaos.
Absolutely. And just remember, if you were to take away anything from this episode, it would be that a dirty pipeline doesn't just create clutter. It creates confusion, missed opportunities, lost revenue, and chaos at the end of the day. So clean data, it creates clear direction. So that would be my main tagline if I were to say, what did I learn from this episode today? And if you liked what you heard today, please feel free to share this episode. You can share it on social media. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're all over the place. So we'd love for you guys to share that if you find this was valuable and want to share it with others. And if you want to reach out to us, we're always ready to hear from you.
Yeah, scan that QR code. You can get to us. So hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Next Level's Chaos to Clarity podcast. Curious to learn more about what we do? Check out our website at www.nxtlvlsolutionsinc.com. If this episode hit home, give us a like, hit subscribe, and share it with someone who would benefit from the information shared. We'll catch you next time for more Chaos to Clarity insights.